are sick. The globalists, they have more power than anyone in this world. They're the Rothschilds. They're the Kennedys, the Habsburgs, the Illuminati. Don't be a fool.
The first catches of a race war will be a brother in a uniform. Look at the sink and its generals. It's set up so we expendable. First thing is 2-6 control. Remember it's 6-1 that you know. If we band together 6-4, but we savage and we ready to go. Brother gets killed by the cops, they claim self-defense. Caught on tape is the real incident. Secret grand jury, no indictment. Feds press civil rights where they know they can't convict, but the cops go to court. All white jury, what they see, what they say. Not guilty, riot started immediately outside the station. Sniper kill back, cops shoot back, niggas run. The first catches of a race war will be every brother just swarm. Yeah, you got pistols, even ARs. What military calls small arms. They got Humvees, flares and napalm. And ability track the iPhone. But don't underestimate killers. That's why we call guerrillas. Protesters shoot back, but they killed by the cops. Graphic video of the incident. Primetime drops, riot spread, call the feds. Cops mobilize, federal troops come in to quell the violence, but they know it only takes one incident of mass murder. Using J, they acquit with effect from the military and from police. Next phase, acts of terror against unity. The first catches of a race war will be the freedoms of America. After we shake ourselves to the core, globalists will then declare war. It's the same plan they had before. Ain't just confined to our shores. Wanna set up one world control. New world order NWO. But first feds start raids, shootouts. Fighting in the street, getting a loot, no doubts. Raises toward the command post. All taken out in coordinated attacks. Now we call rebels next white militias. They begin to form, they say protect their hoods, but they quickly morph into mobs, thugs, vigilantes, and we both terrorizing each other's communities. And that's just the opening salvo.
Welcome back to the St. LibCon podcast. This is the part that we call intellectual dissectional. You just saw the video. Now let's dissect it. So, like I told you, not only am I going to name names of who wants this race war, but I'm also going to give you a little insight on what it would look like. So, let's cut up this song real quick. It starts off. The first casualties of a race war would be a brother in a uniform. Look at the sink. It's the commander-in-chief. And his generals. It's set up so we're expendable. Now, you gotta understand, if this goes down, the first thing you have to look at is the power structure to understand where the black community would fall in all of this. Now, I've been part of the military-industrial complex for years. And I'll just be frank with you. we're not well represented at the top. So, if things got really bad, there's a split in the security forces, every brother's getting murdered. I'm letting you know, if it's one group of people that are going to take over the military versus another, we're not going to fare well. And that's the number one reason. Not the number one reason, but that's one of the top reasons why we shouldn't even be for this. We should never be for this. The number one reason for that is because we're all Americans. And this would rip the country apart. Would not accomplish any goal that may be in our minds. That's the number one reason. Let's move on. First thing is to seize control. Remember, it's 6-1 that you know. If we band together, it's still 6-4. But we savage and we ready to go. Really. Look at the population with 10 to 15%. People who identify as Caucasian, white, closer to 60. The balance being the minorities. Latins, Asians, etc. So, if it was blacks versus whites, we're completely outnumbered and outgunned. If we all band together as minorities, we're still outmanned and outgunned. Again, this whole first hook is all just giving you some insight on the power structure and how this idea is so ridiculous. Let's move on. Brother gets killed by the cops. They claim self-defense. But caught on tape is the real incident. Secret grand jury. No indictment. Let's stop right there. Any race riot, race conflict in America has popped off with the start of the police in the black community. Every time. You can look at assassinations of Martin Luther King, Fred Hampton. But for the most part, it started off when a brother got shot. Especially in very recent times, Ferguson. So, this is a warning that the first stage of any race war will start with conflict between the black community and the police. Feds parade civil rights where they know they can't convict, but the cops go to court. All white jury. What they see, what they say, not guilty. Riots start immediately outside the station. Sniper kills black cops. Cops shoot back, niggas run. Run. Okay, look. I just alluded to Ferguson. By the way, if you haven't seen the video, Hands Up, Don't Shoot. Check it out later in this clip or in the individual clip of episode 1. What we saw is a militarization of the police department versus a very confrontational segment of the black community. There were all types of agitators there to foment conflict, and both sides were willing to take it on. In this verse right here, we're given a glimpse of how that might look. Then we go to the hook. The next casualties of a race war would be every brother that just swarmed. Yeah, you got pistols, even ARs. That's what the military calls small arms. They got Humvees, planes, and napalm. And the Billy track your iPhone. But don't underestimate real killers. That's why we call gorillas. Look. This, like the first verse, is a warning. There's certain groups in this country, and like I've said, I'm going to name names that are black separatists, black nationalists, and they think the only way to have complete rights is to separate from America, have our own community. And they see this as a route to get there. We would pay the price. Protesters shoot back, but they killed by the cops. Graphic video of the incident, prime time it drops. Riot spread, call the feds. Cops mobilize. Federal troops come in to quell the violence. But they know it only take one incident. Mass murder. UCMJ, they acquit. It's the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Pretty much the court system against the military. We defect from the military and from the police. Next phase, acts of terror against communities. Here's what you want to know. We'll go from a simple conflict between the community and the cops that will grow into a riot that will then spread outside of nighttime confrontations. It'll be more targeted at individuals in the community. And that's the second phase, when there's indiscriminate attacks and to foment the division and the conflict. White nationalists, white supremacists will jump on board and make it happen. They'll be the first ones out there killing folk, hoping they get revenge. And there'll be many in our community that'll be ready to give that revenge. It could be very ugly. Another gate that would be passed through, as mentioned here, is if there is a split, like I spoke of earlier, in the security forces. Once that's happened, we've definitely moved on to the next phase of the race war. The last casualties of a race war would be the freedoms of America. After we shake ourselves to the core, the globalists will then declare war. It's the same plan they had before. It ain't just confined to our shores. They want to set up one world control, New World Order, NWO. This race war is a simple stepping stone to the globalists' ultimate plan to consolidate their power. First, they have to weaken our country so they can do what they want to do without deterrence. Real shit. But first, feds start raids, huge shootouts, fighting in the street. We begin to loot, no doubt. Raids is thwarted, command posts, all taken out. And coordinated attacks, now we call rebels. This is the one that you really need to listen to. When feds start raids, it's because there's going to be so much chaos. White supremacists walking in schools, killing babies. Black nationalists showing up at sports games, mowing down people. We don't want this. This is ugliness. And when the country's had enough, we'll have outside enemies hit us. Islamic terrorists, hits across the southern border. I'm gonna let you know exactly who's putting people up to this. You need to know so you can help stop it. And when things are so crazy, the feds are gonna have no other option in their minds but to go in and take all the guns. Everyone's killing everyone. Got more guns on the street, more ammo out there, and murder the whole world. So they're gonna start raids. And that's when everyday Americans, people that didn't want to be in this conflict but love the Second Amendment, are gonna be pulled in. And when it's that group of Americans, like I said, you gotta listen. We call rebels. If the feds move to take all the guns to quell the violence, that leaves the population completely vulnerable. Now, who knows in charge at that time? So people like you and people like me are going to stand up for the Second Amendment. And again, it could be super, super ugly. That would even further devastate the security forces, the population's morale, all of our resources, our families, our communities, our economy. Exactly what the globalists want. Next, white militias begin to form. They say protect their hoods, but they quickly morph into mobs, thugs, and vigilantes. Now we both terrorizing each other's communities. We're about to move into it. And I'm going to tell you exactly who is perpetrating all of this and who would perpetrate all this if it all went down. Because you need to know. But just understand, it's all for one end. And that's not justice. It's not any twisted goal you may have in mind to become an outcome of a race war, splitting the races, getting reparations, forcing the hand of the government. That's not what's going to happen. We're simply going to tear this country apart. And when we're at the weakest, we'll be attacked by our enemies from China and Russia. I'm letting you know right now. These are not our friends. And if they see us this vulnerable, they will take us down so they can again expand their empires. The globalists over in Europe will be happy to see it, because they know with the death and the destruction, they'll also be able to consolidate their influence, call for more world government through the UN, the World Trade Organization, International Monetary Fund, Council of Foreign Relations, European Central Banks, Federal Reserve, all that will be begging for their help after this. And that's exactly what they want from the race war. So I know this is the time you've been waiting for, so you can hear the names of people that are fomenting this race war. I'm here to let you know why it's important to know your enemy. It's more important to know their tactics. So this is what you want. So listen up. These are the people that are not only trying to start this race war, but also people that are contributing to it. David Duke, Tom Mixer, Louis Farrakhan, Malik Zulu Shabazz, Vladimir Putin, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, Idal Muhammad Sakr, Christine Lagarde, George Soros, Carlos Slim, Carlos Salinas, Sean King, we gotta ask. Maybe you and me. Now listen up. There's different groups that are pushing for this race war for different reasons. And these people just represent those groups. There's more people out there more people than I could name. Let's put it that way. But these are good representatives. Now David Duke, we all know David Duke. Klansman, former politician, clown. He's a joke. He's held out there for name recognition. He's a nobody. He would love to see a bunch of black people get killed though. It's more like the people like Tom Metzger with enough members and enough organization and enough arms to create some real chaos. These people are hateful. They're unrepentant racists. They call publicly for a race war. And why do they want it? To separate the races. They want to cleanse America of all minorities. These people are sick. They're vile. You have to watch out. These are the people that will take advantage of the initial chaos to keep the violence going. Now here's the problem. One of many. These people are well armed. Small militias throughout the country. They're the people that stockpile shotguns, rifles, handguns, hunting knives. The weirdos, the sociopaths. And they're going to wreak havoc on our community if a race war goes down. Louis Farrakhan. Louis Farrakhan does not want a race war. He contributes to the race war. Listen, Minister Farrakhan does a lot of good for the black community. Employment, access to credit, creating leaders, creating spiritual interactions and opportunities in the community. All types of social programs, education. But he preaches hate. And I'm just going to have to let you know, I don't roll with racists, even if they look like me. Listen, I wish he would not say these things, but when he does, it splits us apart. And that's a prerequisite to the race war. I ask that all people that speak like Mr. Farrakhan think about your words and think about what I said earlier, what this race war would look like for our community. I ask you to be careful with how you whip up people's emotions. You're doing good. Don't cancel it. Malik Zulu Shabazz, once leader of the new Black Panther movement, has nothing to do with the real Black Panthers. This new Black Panther Party they're no good for us. They're like Tom Metzger. They want to separate the races, have two different countries. And they're willing to go out and preach hate and violence to get their means. This dude is dangerous. Baltimore, Freddie Gray, I got something to say about Freddie Gray a little later. Baltimore Freddie Gray. All the chaos we saw in the streets. Shabazz was there, whipping it up, trying to make it pop off. This guy's dangerous. He thinks if he can create enough chaos, separate the races, he can negotiate our own piece of land. So the United States can be without minorities. We can be over here. Like, what is this guy thinking? Think about it. He wants to start a race war so he can negotiate to separate the country, put minorities all grouped and surrounded by what would then be our enemies. It's like the Kurds. What are you thinking? We'll be surrounded by Iraq, Turkey, Syria. This dude's a fool. He's gonna get a bunch of us killed. This dude wants a race war. Vladimir Putin. During the 2016 election, this dude wasn't just putting up advertisements for Trump versus Hillary, Hillary versus Trump. He was putting up stuff to whip up the races, to create division, sow discord among different communities. Why? Because he would love to see this race war. Weaken us enough so we could spread that Russian Empire, Soviet Union, Baghdadi, leader of ISIS. He knows that he has the ultimate goal of infiltrating the United States with enough of people with his ideology that during a war like this would then create additional chaos to take down the U.S. government. You see, there's a difference between Islam and Islamicists. Islamicists have a political ideology and a goal of taking over the world by spreading a caliphate. And that's what Baghdadi wants to do. They would love to see a race war, take down the government, create enough chaos, and have infiltrated our country with enough of his followers that they would be able to use their tactics that they use around the world to take control. It's a joke. It's a dream. They had that caliphate. As soon as we got the right guy and we wiped it out. Ida Muhammad Sokar, the head of the Muslim Brotherhood here in the United States. Maybe not officially, maybe not on paper, but he's the head of the organization and its goal to do exactly what I said Baghdadi wants. Infiltrate the ideology enough with his followers that when it pops off, there's significant force. Where is a lot of this training and ideology and radicalization going on? Directed by this man? In the nation's prisons. Listen to me. It's going on in the nation's prisons. And your government's doing nothing about it. This guy's job won't be done until parts of the United States look like Europe. No-go zones. Hear about how the Europeans are so great integrating these people into their society. They let them in, set up ghettos and keep them there. Hope that they're able to provide the manual labor that they need, the cheap labor that they need. Keep their country going without knowing they're making ourselves real vulnerable. That's what this guy wants to set up over here. He's a fool. Christine Lagarde, former managing director of the IMF, International Monetary Fund. Let me tell you what these people do. When a country down in South America, for example, and the country's about to go bankrupt, then the IMF comes in and they say, hey, we'll make it all good. And they give them a deal that wrecks their country even worse than if they were going on and done it by themselves. These people are major globalists that are set up and take over control of countries through the currency, through their economy, through credit. These people are sick. They're globalists. They have more power than anyone in this world. They're the Rothschilds. They're the Kennedys. The Habsburgs. The Illuminati. Don't be a fool. These people exist. And now Ms. Lagarde, she's left the IMF just recently, a couple days ago, not even a week. She's gone over to head up European Central Bank. Make sure that she's in control of the money, which is then in control of the continent. And why would she want a race war? Like I told you in the previous part, the race war is a stepping stone. Weaken our country enough so these international organizations can consolidate, control our country along with everyone else. George Soros, he's more the tactical financier. He's taking down countries' currencies as big as Great Britain. This dude is a devious, sick, George Soros funds different organizations through his foundation. And these organizations operate throughout the United States to create destabilizing forces, to separate the races, to foment all types of division. He would love to see a race war. He would short the US dollar, make billions. This guy's a sociopath. Carlos Slim. You know who Carlos Slim is. Owns all the telephone networks in Mexico. Mexico's a third world country. This guy's the 5th richest person in the world on paper. Truth of the matter is, Carlos Slim's a nothing. He ain't worth more than $8 billion. $8 billion. Sorry, I couldn't say that without laughing. Carlos Slim is a front man for Carlos Salinas. Never heard of Carlos Salinas, have you? But that's crazy because he's the former president of Mexico. He was president back during Bush 1, Clinton years, where he changed the entire landscape of Mexico. Pretty much made it into a narco country. He's the head of all the drug lords, and all the money funnels up to him. He also privatized the telecom industry. Sold it to Carlos Slim, who we know would control the vast wealth and make sure he got all of the benefits. What did he do? He sold Carlos Slim the telecommunication industry for $500 million. You go, okay. It was worth 12 billion. This dude Slim, he's one of the largest private owners of the New York Times, uses propaganda against the US. Paper record my ass. These people backstabbed Jewish people during World War II. They backstabbing us all right now. Carlos Salinas. Salinas, he took a bunch of communal land down in Mexico during his presidency, privatized it, sold it off. Those people that lived off that land migrated north. That was the big migration. It hasn't stopped since. Because if you don't know the history of Mexico, there's a lot of indigenous people that live very hard lives in that country. And then there's the descendants of the conquistadors like Slim and Salinas that live like kings. They benefit from the movement of people, drugs across the border. They also benefit from chaos, where they can spread their influence throughout their former colonies, which are now part of the United States in the southwestern part of the country. These dudes love to weaken us with the race war. Sean King. Sean King is a useful idiot. He's a white dude acting like he's a black dude. And I'm not talking about Eminem type shit. I'm talking about he says he's black, but he's white. I don't care. I do care. Be who you are, all right? Be who you are, especially when you're trying to leave a movement like Black Lives Matter. The true issue, though, with Sean King is he's contributing to a race war because he gets publicity and likes and loves and hugs and TV time, fame. So he'll go in and promote any soft division against the races. He'll promote any type of split he could see between the races. He puts it up on his little social media and gets some likes, and he doesn't understand that he's filling people's heads like this is a representation of the entire country, and he's contributing to the separation, to the segregation, which again is a prerequisite to this race war. Now I gotta ask you, when you talk to your family, when you speak to your friends, when you communicate with your sphere of influence, person, social media, phone, are you helping or are you contributing to this race war? You see, as long as we're talking about race, we are. So I take some personal responsibility. But at the same time, I have a goal. My goal is this: that you understand what pushes us towards this so you won't support it. So as we go through these gates that I talked about, these phases of the race war leading up to sheer catastrophe, that you take it down a notch, that you sit back and you think before you act. You consider the power of your words and your thumbs on social media, I guess, before you hit send. They want us divided. It's the only way they can take us down. And they know when they try to take us down, it'll be through a race war.